So we got a clip from one of JD's recent shows, all right, where he's talking about Nebraska and what we can do and what people should expect, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead and roll that clip, and then we'll react.
You have a quarterback now who I think in Dylan Raiola has the ability to put you over the top. You got a head coach now who's known for what he does in year 3. He's now in year 3. Verified dude at offensive coordinator. Okay, great. Dana Holgerson, check. More weapons, workable schedule, success to build on. All these things are there for Nebraska. So, like, you have climbed the ladder now to be at a point where you can compete to be back, to get to what Timothy's, I think, ultimate question is. Is Nebraska back just yet? I don't think so. But again, I don't think Nebraska, the average fan hearing this in Lincoln, I don't think is saying, what are you talking about? Yes, we're back. They expect to compete at a high level too. They expect to go show up in Indy at a certain point in time here in the not too distant future and play for conference titles. That would, I think, qualify as back for them. Why? Because they've been there. They've tasted that. All right. So all that's to say for Nebraska, this year is about going and getting paid, man. Got the steady job. Let's go elevate. Let's kick it up a notch, Emerald style. Let's go elevate. Let's go find ourselves in a spot where we can claim this time next year we are back under Matt Rule. So that's, I think, the next key for them, and that's something I'm excited to watch. But great question from Timothy in Scottsdale. Back? Not yet. Working on it? I think so. Making strides.
I mean, yeah, the question I don't think was, are we back? That's a not ask a 8, not ask a hold on, not ask a 7, not ask a, it's an ask a 9 question. I think the question really, even though it wasn't worded that way, is will we be back based on what we do this fall? And so I think that's really what he was asking. So based on how JD Pickell, all right, defined Nebraska being back, what are your thoughts on how he defined Nebraska being back? And then we can discuss how likely it is that we'll be back based on the parameters defined as success for Nebraska being back this fall.
Yeah, I mean, being back is such a weird. It just depends on where, what you grew up with, what you believe Nebraska was to begin with. Because he stated there too, he doesn't think Nebraska fans or people in Lincoln would consider him back till they're in conference championship games. And nowadays, that's really hard. I mean, you can win obviously the playoffs without going to your conference championship. So It's kind of interesting just to go down that path. But even a 9-win season, which I think we would all love, and just Nebraska football would feel back, but it'd be back to Bo Pelini type days. It's not back to top 5 annually playing for the national championship or playing games that will factor into that. So there's a long way to go to being back. And then, as I said before, it's not just doing that once. I mean, Nebraska might be able to do that for 2 years, and we'd claim them as back. But what Tom Osborne and Bob Devaney did for 35 straight years was be in that discussion. So to truly be back, it can't be a blip in the radar, and it really can't even be 5-6 years. I mean, it's got to be a long period, and that just shows you how good they were.
Over 40 years, we had 9+ wins. No other program in the history of college football has ever done that. Okay, just for a little bit of perspective, and this is not how I'm going to define us being back. So Osborne, was Nebraska football coach for 25 years. For 25 years, Nebraska football coach Osborne won more games than any other program in the country. That's not the most impressive part. He could have lost the last 16 games of his career, an entire season plus 4 games, and still won more games than any other college football program in the country. His last 10 games versus top 10 teams, he went 10-0, and they won those games. The average margin of victory is by 21 points per game. Think about that. I'm just going to be quiet and let that set in the universe while I take a drink for a second. Have you thought, just let that settle out there for a second? How crazy that is. Now, is that how I define back? No. To Jake's point, I think there's tiers. There's tiers to being back. First of all, we need to keep going in the right direction. Again, Rule keeps using this word jump. I've advised him not to. He doesn't listen to me for some reason. Just keep going the right direction. But if we're going to keep listening to the head coach, the guy who's getting paid $8-9 million a year, a jump is not one game better. Not 8-4, not 8-5. You got to win 9 games if you're talking jump. Personally, if we just keep going in the right direction, we're eventually going to get to 8, 9, 10 wins. But so tier 1 to being back is 9 wins. Tier 3 of the 3 levels here. Tier 3, 9 wins. The thing we did for over 40 straight years, and no other program in the entirety of America did. The thing that Osborne almost got fired for after the 90 season. The thing that Pelini, along with a few other things, got fired for about a little over a decade ago. 9 wins. That's tier 3 on the 3-tier return to being and I quote, back, in my humble opinion. Number 2, making the college football playoff, which at minimum you're going to have to get 9 wins. And if we're not going to schedule anybody in our non-conference anymore, we're probably going to have to win 10 games in order to do so. All right. So to me, tier 2, college football playoff. Tier 3, I'm sorry, I'm going reverse order, 3, 2, 1. The next tier, the top tier, I'm going to call tier 1, is now you're competing like for titles. The Big Ten title is going to be harder to win than getting in the college football playoff. And frankly, it's not that valuable right now. If we go to 14 teams and you win the Big Ten title, you get an automatic 2 seed in the first round bye, and the college football playoff weekends aren't spread 42 years apart, so the byes actually hurt you, then it will matter. To me, I'm not going to go to the Big Ten championship. Right now, it has no value. Ask Oregon. Right now, it hurts you with the way the byes are set up. I don't care about the Big Ten title. So 9 wins is tier 3. Tier 2, the next level up, making the college football playoff. To me, tier 1, the top tier, is when we are making a deep run in the college football playoffs. When you're becoming one of the final 4 teams. Maybe you get a top 4 seed, okay, or a top 2 seed, or whatever the case may be. But now we're like one of the final 4 teams. We're in the national title game. We're in the final 8 teams at least, which means you won at least one college football playoff game. Like, to me, that is tier 1. Now, I thought Jake made a great point. The asterisk that I would put at the bottom is doing this way more often than not. Don't do it for 2 years and disappear for a decade. Don't do it for a year and then take 3 years off. Now, you got to keep in mind, there were years when Nebraska was not in the national championship conversation during Osborne's tenure, as great as he was. 9 wins in the 80s meant you were out of the national title conversation probably in October. That's not a slam. That's just the way college football used to be. It was very different back then. For me, being consistent is like, out of every 5 years, you're doing at least 9 wins in the college football playoff at least 3 or 4 times, and maybe once or twice you're making a deep run to be back. The first step, again, this is tiers. I don't expect any of that this upcoming fall. I don't say any of it's impossible. Look at Indiana. What I'm saying is, let's get to the 9-win tier 3 part of this equation first. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too. I mean, I think that expectation is coming. And like you said, Matt Rule's kind of embracing it. But that it's kind of written in stone, right? Because now that Pelini got fired, of course, Solich got fired after 9-win campaigns. Again, both those, maybe for Solich, it was the 7 year ahead of him. But it's kind of crazy how that's set in stone. And now, like I said, I think Nebraska fans have had to learn a hard way is 9 wins. That 9 wins isn't a birthright, because, Nebraska fans felt that way for so long. And I'm wondering how long, if Nebraska does get back, will we settle right back into that sort of feeling? I'm sure we will.
I love that you birthright. That's how we felt at one point.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a given. It's just an automatic. A birthright, man. That's a great way of putting that. All right. We got more we're going to get into, but real quick, let's at least address this briefly. Transfer receiver Harley Gilmore is no longer with the Nebraska football team. Coach Matt Rule said, and I quote, "Nothing criminal or anything like that, just won't be with us anymore," end quote. Any quick thoughts on that before we move on?
Not necessarily. Again, this is the before the season even hits, before we get to fall, you're reminded why championships aren't won in the offseason. For all the excitement about the transfer portal, again, you need guys that are going to hit. A 4-star out of the portal is great, but if he never shows up in the fall, then how much does that really help you? Now, thankfully, I will say this: the wide receiver room has a lot of depth, so at least that you feel like you can overcome this. And he's a guy with a ton of potential, but I think he had like 100 yards last year, so it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a little disappointment as far as the upside.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not going to work out, I'd rather know now. 7 practices in the spring rather than 20 practices deep into fall camp. Get the other guys reps who are actually going to be here and playing. Wish them nothing but the best. Matt Rule said he was, and I quote, "cool with his daughters for like a second," end quote, after his viral dancing moment on TikTok earlier this week with Nebraska volleyball star Harper Murray. Murray is a favorite of Vivine and Leona Rule. All right, another quote from Rule. "The players were making fun of me," end quote, Rule said. "They were like, you were terrible, but deep down inside, they know." Also, it was also brought up, hey, should you be punished for doing a TikTok dance in the facility. No, it was in the foyer area, which is a public area. He made clear to talk about that as well. What are your thoughts on rules, TikTok dance, being cool for a moment, but not really, because when you're a parent, you're never cool in your kids' eyes once they turn about, I don't know, 9. What are your thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta stand up for the players a little bit here. This is this is clearly TikToking, and whether it's in the facility, by the facility, whatever it may be, he's dancing on TikTok. I think he should run some stadium stairs.
I just want to see him run stadium stairs. I don't care if it's valid or not. I just want to watch it. Rich Rod is the one who said no TikTok dancing at all.
Yeah.
Rule said not in the facility. All right. And I quote, "It's where we should be, and it's about where I thought it would be." End quote. Matt Rule says on the overall progression of the Nebraska football team this offseason, his basic message: the program has reached a steady place, which makes it easier to maintain an onward and upward trajectory. We'll play the clip in the next segment, but basically he talks about he believes they're going to be a good football team. Now, he doesn't want to go too far one way or the other. We are where he wants the team to be, and he feels like we're going to be a good football team. There's been a lot of things said this offseason. Again, the offensive line has been a highlight of the offseason, he said. The defensive line is going to be one of the best around. Those are 2 of the 3 biggest question marks on the entire team right there. I feel like, and then he specifically addressed it's like he listens to our show and the things we have question marks about, he makes sure to address on the press conference. You think he sits there, all right, Adam and Jake talked about this, I better address this, I better talk about that. You think he ever does that? Because that's what I do to his press conferences. I break him down and talk about it. Maybe he does that about our show. Well, this was a terrible take by Adam. I'll let him know about that later. You ever think he does that, or has somebody who does that and gives him the notes? Because he seems to, the very things that we question, he seems to address in the press conferences. Just say yes. Thank you.
I think he absolutely does.
I just want to act like people listen to us.
Who wouldn't listen to us? I don't know.
That's a great idea. That's a great point right there. Phenomenal. Best point of the day, Jay.